Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered to Advocate podcast. This is Michelle, and I'm here with Dana Marie, and we're so excited to bring you this episode where we're going to talk about the green flags of a well-written IEP. So what you can be looking for when after the meeting and you receive your child's proposed IEP, here are some things that you should be looking for.
And talked a little bit about this, and we'll dive a little more deeper into this later on in the year. But one of the things that Massachusetts has switched to in their new IEP form is sort of that right up front conversation in the IEP about transition planning and student interest and what their long-term goals are. And while it has been challenging for everybody to shift to a new IEP form in the state, I think one of the benefits is really forcing us as the team and team members to do that upfront work, and lay the foundation for the IEP, where we're really talking about student strengths, really talking about what interests them, and really talking about sort of like their needs in a very personalized way, right? I think the green flag is student centered and personalized language. The red flag would be if everything feels like it's copy and pasted. So that's just like the simplest, easiest thing to start with, the simplest, easiest thing to look for when you're looking as a parent, especially at an IEP. Be like, does this actually sound like my kid? Does it sound like what they're good at? Does it sound like what they're interested in? Does it sound like what their vision is for the future? And if you can answer yes to all of those questions, we're off to a really good start.
That's one of my favorite parts of the new IEP template, actually, is that it really does start off with that child-centered language and focus, whereas the previous one did not, and it was so often forgotten about, especially at
Mhm.
the elementary school level,
For
and middle
sure.
school level. So the next thing that we wanna be looking at, and you've heard us talk about this a
Mhm.
lot, is we really want to be looking at the goals for your child. We want to be looking at, are these goals specific? Are they measurable? Are they related to what your child can actually do? And then how we're working to get them towards grade level standards. Is it something that is achievable and challenging?
Mhm.
And most importantly, is it trackable? Is it
Mhm.
something that the teacher and or service provider can actually be taking data on so that progress can be clearly measured? So
Mhm.
a huge green flag of an IEP is that the goals are really solid. And not just that, but that they have not just been copied and pasted from the previous year or even the year before that. That includes the objectives, simply rearranging the order of the words, sentence syntax, or changing the percentage, like how the criteria to meet the goal or objectives is not sufficient. If your child needs to redo, quote unquote, a goal in this next IEP because they have not met their goal from the last
Mhm.
year, then the team dropped the ball the previous year by not reconvening to discuss why your child was not making progress in that goal area.
And I actually feel like the third sort of green flag, it kind of builds on that because it's all about connecting. How do things connect? How does the goal actually connect to what your child's needs are and what they should be working on? And then our number three green flag is where you see the super clear connection between what those needs are, what those goals are, and then what services they require to work on those goals and to make progress on those areas of need or areas of improvement and struggle, right? So the next green flag is kind of building on the second one, and it's finding those connections between what can my student do, what do they still need to work on, and then do we have a clear connection between those needs and then the services that are being provided. We'll go way more into depth about this on another episode. So if you're like, I don't know how to figure out the connection between the two and if they line up and make sense, do not worry about it. That's something that we're going to talk more in depth about this school year. But just know that when we can see, as folks reading your child's IEP, and when you can see those clear connections, that's a green flag for us.
Absolutely. Fourth green flag here is that there is a balance throughout the IEP that every skill area that is being addressed in schools that your child might have impacted because of their disability is being addressed.
Mhm.
So, not just academics. And this is a huge red flag, actually, in many districts when they're telling parents, well, your child might have ADHD, but they're doing fine academically, but maybe your child is in the guidance or school adjustment counselor's office every single day. They're not necessarily making progress in that social emotional area, right? So, a fourth green flag would be that the IEP is actually addressing academic skills and any other skills that need to work in school in order to make progress across all areas. So, social emotional skills, executive functioning skills, so organization, time management, communication, behavior, so, for all of those areas that might be impacting your child in school, their growth and progress in school in relation to their disability, all of those skills should be evenly balanced as target areas in your child's IEP.
The fifth one really ties back to our first one. I was just thinking the fifth one is
Right.
ensuring that both student and parent, caregiver, family voice is included in the IEP. Like we were saying here in Massachusetts, it has made it honestly a little bit easier just because it's asking those questions up front. You've heard us say probably too many times at this point that we always love when parents come to IEP meetings with their concerns already written out, or they've maybe sent an email to the school team, or they send an email after the meeting so that they can have sort of word for word what their concerns are included in the IEP. But the other green flag that we love to see is your voice heard as the parent or caregiver, and then your child's voice heard, regardless of how old they are, regardless
Yeah.
of what age they are, what grade they're in. And you can go way back. We did a whole series on student voice,
Oh,
honestly,
yeah.
probably 2 years ago at this point, but we did a whole series on student voice and how to include student voice as young as pre-K grades, kids, 3 and 4 year olds, all the way up to obviously high school and transition aged students. Looking at an IEP, we want to see, is your voice heard as the parent, your concerns heard? And then is your student's voice centered and clear? What's hard for them, what's going well for them, and what their goals are for the year and the future?
And number six, the sixth green flag also loops back to well written goals and objectives. When we have well written goals and objectives, we have a way that we can very clearly collect data and we know that if a child is meeting or reaching those goals. The next piece here is there some sort of progress monitoring
Mm.
plan? So, thinking about how the progress is going to be measured, when are updates going to be shared, who is collecting data, in what fashion is this data being collected. So this might be wrapped into the actual goal areas, or sometimes there might be something like a positive behavior support
Mm.
plan that goes with a child's IEP package. That's part of the IEP, in fact, and you should be receiving a copy of that. And a document like that should also be would be including more details that could actually be evolving through some sort of progress monitoring plan.
And
So,
once again, ties back all the way to the sort of the first one, the first couple that we talked about. So this was a super quick. Our goal was to get you a quick 10-minute episode with some green flags to look for as you look at your child's IEP this school year, and maybe even have an evaluation or an annual review meeting or a reconvene meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks. These are the things to look for. We will dive deeper this year into all six of these green flags, give you a little bit more information if you're listening and thinking, like, this all sounds great, but I don't know what some of this even means or what to look for. That's our goal this year, is to give you more ideas of what you can be looking for as the parent or caregiver when you're looking at these IEPs, when you're looking at evaluations, when you're looking at progress monitoring data, so on and so forth. We hope this has been at least helpful for another sort of beginning of the year fall episode as you're starting to think about your child's meeting, their IEP, and sort of what goals you have for them this school year. Keep tuning in, keep listening. We're going to dive deeper into a lot of these topics. And as always, we ask you, if you have something you want us to talk about, chat about, send us a message. Send us a message through our social media pages, email us. And we want to hear from you and hear what you want to hear more about on the podcast.
all right, everybody, till next time, take care. And hopefully, these green flags are helpful for you.